A selva swallowed the sounds before they could propagate. The air was heavy, not just from the humidity, but from something that pressed on the lungs like an unseen hand. Roman Drake adjusted the strap of his equipment on his shoulder, his eyes fixed on the faded map that Camila, the local guide, held before him. She pointed to a depression in the ground, where exposed roots formed strange patterns. "This isn't normal," she said in a low voice. Gabriel, the journalist accompanying the group, recorded everything on his recorder, but asked no questions. He knew Roman preferred silence. The group advanced, stepping on layers of leaves that whispered beneath their boots. Hours later, the first smooth stone appeared amidst the dark vegetation, worn with markings that resembled writing. Roman ran his fingers over the carvings, recognizing symbols that didn't correspond to any known culture. Camila murmured something in her native tongue, perhaps a prayer or a warning. Gabriel approached, the recorder forgotten in his pocket. "What does it mean?" he asked, but Roman only shook his head. The answer came at night, when they lit their flashlights. The stone was part of a larger structure, buried beneath centuries of earth and time. Its form was revealed gradually, a square base that widened towards the subsoil. It wasn't a traditional pyramid, but something older, stranger. As they set up camp, Gabriel noticed that Roman avoided looking directly at the structure, as if fearing it would stare back at him. Camila disappeared for a few minutes and returned with dried leaves in her hands. "To burn," she explained. "The air there isn't good to breathe." Roman agreed, but didn't light a fire. Instead, he opened his notebook and began to draw the symbols, tracing lines that made no sense. Gabriel, watching, felt a prickling sensation at the back of his neck, as if someone was watching him from the shadows of the forest. The descent began at dawn, when filtered light from the trees dyed everything in a muted green. The entrance, partially blocked by fallen stones, took hours to clear. The air inside was colder, drier, and echoed with a low hum that seemed to emanate from the walls. Roman went first, his flashlight cutting trembling beams into the darkness. Camila held a rope tied to her waist, her steps hesitant. Gabriel brought up the rear, the recorder on, but silent. The inner walls were smooth, covered in symbols arranged in spirals that seemed to rotate as they advanced. In some places, the ground vibrated beneath their feet, though no one commented. Hours or minutes later, time seemed distorted, they reached a circular chamber. In the center, a pointed stone protruded from the ground, covered in a crystalline substance that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. Roman approached, his hand hovering over the surface. "Don't touch it," Camila warned, but it was too late. The crystal emitted a luminous pulse, and for an instant Gabriel saw shadows moving at the edge of his vision. Human figures, perhaps, or something that once were. Roman recoiled, his face pale. "This isn't an artifact," he said, his voice failing. "It's a record." Camila murmured words again that Gabriel didn't understand, but which made Roman nod rigidly. As they discussed their next move, the humming intensified, and the air grew denser. Gabriel realized his breath was synchronizing with the sound, as if the structure was breathing with them. On the opposite wall, a fissure revealed a smaller second chamber, where human bones lay in perfect circles. There were no signs of violence, only positions that suggested the people had simply lain down and died. Roman collected fragments of pottery while Gabriel documented everything. Camila remained silent until, suddenly, she grabbed Roman's arm. "They aren't dead," she said. "They're waiting." The third day brought torrential, constant, deafening rain, muffling all sounds except the drumming on the leaves. Inside the structure, however, the air remained dry, as if the forest outside didn't exist. Roman spent hours studying the crystals, comparing them to data on his tablet. "This composition doesn't match anything on Earth," he admitted, more to himself. Gabriel, restless, explored a side corridor and found a room with walls covered in star charts. The constellations were unknown, but something about them made him dizzy. Camila disappeared again, returning with a somber expression. "The forest is changing," she warned. "The paths we knew have vanished." In the afternoon, the group reached a tacit agreement. They needed to take samples to the surface, but what to do with the acquired knowledge was still uncertain. As Roman packed the crystals, Gabriel noticed that the symbols on the walls had changed since morning, as if the structure was responding to their presence. On the way back, Roman's map proved useless. The forest's geography had changed, rivers diverted, trees rearranged. Night fell quickly, and with it the humming returned, louder, coming not only from the structure but from the entire forest around. Gabriel dozed off and dreamt of the shadowy figures in the chamber, now with defined faces. They were themselves, but different, like reflections in murky water. Upon waking, Roman had vanished, leaving behind only his open notebook on a page where he had repeatedly scribbled, "We are not the first, nor will we be the last." Camilla, her eyes fixed in the opposite direction, whispered, "He returned to the structure. She calls everyone, sooner or later." Gabriel couldn't tell if it was a threat or a promise. The rain stopped, and the silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Inside the structure, the humming had transformed into a murmur, almost words. Gabriel turned on his recorder, capturing distorted fragments of unknown languages. Camilla lit a torch, its flame flickering towards the passage he had explored before. The star chart room was different. The walls displayed moving scenes, humanoid figures building the structure, shaping the forest around it as if it were clay. "They are not of this world," Camilla whispered. In a corner, they found Roman's equipment and a second notebook with torn pages. Among the remnants, a single sentence, "The forest is their memory." As they advanced, the air grew thinner. Gabriel felt a growing pressure behind his eyes. Camilla stopped abruptly, pointing to the floor. Fresh tracks, not human, disappearing into a fissure in the wall. "Those aren't his," she said, her voice strained. "He's already gone to the other side." The fissure led to a spherical chamber where the central crystal pulsed at regular intervals, like a heart. Projections appeared, collapsing civilizations, wars, technological advancements, all in endless cycles. Gabriel recognized faces in the crowds, Roman, himself, Camilla, repeated in different eras. "They use us as mirrors," Camilla murmured, "to see what we are and what we could be." Before Gabriel could respond, the crystal emitted a flash, and the walls dissolved into a darkness dotted with unknown stars. Camilla grabbed his arm, but it wasn't fear that made her tremble, it was recognition. "They are here," she said. "And they always have been." Vague shapes moved among the projections, entities that watched without eyes. Gabriel felt the recorder slip from his fingers, but didn't move to retrieve it. Camilla released his arm and walked towards the crystal, now exuding a bluish light, pulsing in sync with the stars. "Have you been here before?" Gabriel asked, his voice distant. Camilla didn't answer immediately. When she did, her words came out slow, as if translated from another language. "Not in this body. But the forest. It has spoken to me since childhood. It whispers about what lies beneath." She touched the crystal, and the projections abruptly changed. A city not unlike those they knew, but built in harmony with the forest, towers intertwined with giant trees. People walked the streets, indistinct faces, familiar actions, planting, building, laughing. Then, the scene crumbled. A shadow fell over the city, and the figures began to disappear one by one, until only a child remained in the square, looking directly at Gabriel and Camilla. The child pointed at the crystal, and the vision faded. Gabriel recoiled, stumbling over Roman's body. The man was lying on his side, his eyes open, but not dead. He was breathing slowly, as if in deep sleep. "He's caught between the cycles," Camilla explained, kneeling beside him. "The structure shows truths the mind cannot bear. He saw what we truly are, an echo of something greater." She pressed a crystal against Roman's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his fingers moved, and he whispered, "They are not gods. They are architects. And we are the mortar." Camilla nodded, as if confirming something she had always known. The ground trembled, and the chamber walls began to shift, forming new corridors. Gabriel helped Roman to his feet, but the man barely seemed present. His eyes reflected the crystal's light, as if there was something behind them. "We need to get out," Gabriel insisted. Camilla shook her head. "There is no exit, only layers." When they reached the surface, the forest was unrecognizable. Trees with metallic bark, flowers that emitted their own light, and the sky no longer blue, but a mixture of nameless hues. Camilla took a deep breath, relieved. She let us go, for now. Roman, now more present, murmured, "None of this is real. Or everything is. It doesn't matter. They use us to remember." Gabriel looked back at the structure that rose above the treetops, its pyramidal form clear and imposing. "What are we to them?" he asked. Camilla smiled, sadly. "Seeds. Or fertilizer. It depends on how long we last before becoming part of the cycle." As they walked away, Gabriel noticed that Roman's map was blank. There was no longer a path home, only the direction Camilla chose, her steps firm towards the ever-changing horizon. Roman held the crystals against his chest, and Gabriel, finally, turned off the recorder. Some truths, he realized, didn't need to be shared. They were already buried within them all.